So Howard Stern has turned into Don Imus. And Don Imus, if you cross him with Pat Zajac. He's the opposite of, so people, that's the problem with being a rebel like Howard Stern. People like you because you're a rebel and you get so popular that he becomes the establishment. The establishment gives him $500 million, and now he's loved by Hillary Clinton. He's loved by Hillary Clinton.
You know, Jimmy, that's all that changed. Like, I read all his books back in the day when they came out, and if you read the books, he was a very petty, arrogant dude who was like kind of mean. And we all thought it was great back in the day. And I guess once you make it big, it's like not that cool. It seems like really like awful now looking back. But I read Private Parts, all those books. And I can't believe some of the things he said that are, I mean, I don't even know how he's like, I guess there's just so much they can't call him on it. Do you remember when he said being gay is just because you're super immature and don't want to grow up? That was in his book.
Howard Stern said that?
Yeah, his theory is gay men just don't want to grow up and get a wife and kids like an adult, and that's why he thinks people are gay. That was in either Private Parts or Miss America. I can't remember which one.
So now he's back at it, blaming the anti-vaxxed. He's upset at the people who are not vaccinated, and he's blaming them instead of blaming a system that just cut 33,000 beds, hospital beds, from their hospital system in New York State. So he's angry at regular people. This is a 400 millionaire, Howard Stern. 400, at least 400 billionaire. He's probably, is he worth $1 billion? Who knows? Stern rips anti-vaxxers. I might have to run just to clean up their mess. Now, if you get, the whole problem with this is that the vaccine does not, if you're vaccinated, you can still transmit the virus and you can still catch the virus. And so that's the problem with what he's saying. And also, the WHO says the virus is never going away, which means everyone, including Howard Stern, is likely to get coronavirus, COVID. So if you're going to get it, who do you care if you get it from an unvaccinated person or a vaccinated person? Because they can both shed the virus, and they both can transmit the virus, and they both can contract the virus, even though YouTube says that it can help reduce the transmission and reduce the contraction. They also say, not YouTube, but science also says now that everyone's going to get the coronavirus, COVID virus. That's coming from Joe Biden's director of COVID response. Andy Slavitt said that before Omicron. So just during Delta, he's like, Delta is so contagious, it's likely everyone's going to get Corona SARS-CoV-2. So that's what Andy Slavitt said. That was Joe Biden's director. So if everyone is likely to get it, who do you care if you get it from? So that's this whole thing about vax. So that's why it's crazy to A, be for mandates, or B, blame the unvaccinated. Because C, no matter how many people get vaccinated, we're never going to get rid of this virus. That's according to the WHO, and everyone will continue to be infected with it no matter how vaccinated we get. I had Graham Elwood on my show, my dear friend, Graham Elwood, who said that if we could have just got to 90% vaccination, we could have got rid of that. That is not true. There are countries, Gibraltar, 100% vaccinated. They have huge outbreaks. Singapore, huge. Israel, Iceland, the countries with the highest vaccination rates also have huge outbreaks. So that's false information. And people who are, and he's working off of that information because that's the stuff they told us for the first 6 months of this year. They were telling us, oh, if you get the vaccine, it'll stop transmission. It'll stop you from getting it cold. Well, that's not the case. And so now people are hating on the unvaxxed because they think if they would just get vaccinated, we can get rid of this. It's never, ever, ever going away. But no one ever says that on television. Rachel Maddow never says that. Fauci never says it. The guy from the NIH never says it. Anderson Cooper never says it. Sanjay Gupta never says it. You know who says it? Me. and probably Russell Brand.
Jimmy, also, even, okay, let's say if we had 100% vaccination, which I guess they should have given it away to poor countries if they wanted that, though we could have done that, even if that was true, it's already in the past. Like, Well, we didn't.
Yeah.
So now it's not, that's, what do you, like, okay, you're mad about that, but it's not going to make a difference now. Secondly, I had a friend just said the same thing to me that you just said about, and they also, they think it mutates more because you're not vaxxed.
That's the exact backwards.
Well, let's say it's true.
So people think, let's first go with what Dr. Robert Malone said on this show. The guy who invented the mRNA vaccine technology and just got banned by Twitter after he was on Joe Rogan for 3 hours. So what he said on this show is that, you know, when you give too many antibiotics to farm animals, they become resistant to that medicine, that the viruses do. He says or the bacteria do. He said on this show that that's what happens when you over-vaccinate people, is that it then the virus has to get around the vaccination and it mutates to become more deadly. If it goes through the unvaccinated, it mutates to become more contagious but less deadly. And that's exactly what happened. So Delta, the Delta variant, that was more contagious, less deadly than the first one. And that was a variant that got mutated before the vaccines. So that got mutated inside healthy people. And how did it mutate? It mutated to become more contagious and less deadly. And now it has mutated again, and it looks like it's mutated inside unvaccinated people in South Africa because their population is very low vaccinated rate. So that's where this mutation comes from, and it came from healthy people, and now it's presenting as a very mild version of COVID, much more mild than Delta.
Yeah,
So this idea that people have that the unvaccinated create deadlier strains is not being borne out by the science. It appears, according to what the virologist, Dr. Robert Malone, said on my show, the guy who's invented vaccines and works on vaccines his whole life. That's what he says. Now, you can listen to Rachel Maddow if you want, and you can listen to Dr. Fauci, who's a criminal liar, if you want, or the guy at the NIH who's been caught smearing other scientists who disagreed with him. You can listen to those criminals if you want. I'm going to believe the science. And so, Kurt, that's exact. So they want you to hate the unvaccinated, which is why they tell you that the virus mutates to become more deadly inside unvaccinated people. They don't tell you the other thing.
Yeah.
And so that's why people hate on the unvaccinated, because they think, A, they could have stopped it, and B, they're making it more deadly. Both those things are wrong. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, Omicron is so much less deadly. Shouldn't you be thanking the unvaxxed for making the less bad virus inside their body?
No, because all the news reports are screaming about how contagious it is and how it's overwhelming everybody and how we're having a tsunami and a tornado of infections. But they leave out so what YouTube wants you to always do is provide context. What the establishment news doesn't do is provide context. There's a tsunami of new Omicron infections, and they don't say mild infections, because that's what they are. Omicron is much more mild. I think Fauci called it severely mild. So it was some crazy adjective he used in front of mild. Shockingly mild or severely mild, something like that. And so that's the part they always leave out. They don't say, like, oh, we have to have a lockdown again. Because in Chicago, they just voted to lock down Chicago schools, to not have in-person learning, because they're misinformed about Omicron. And the worst thing you could do for kids is to keep them out of school. It's much worse. By the way, no threat to kids, almost zero threat to kids from COVID. This is before Omicron. Before Omicron, kids were more likely to die of the flu than they were to die of COVID. That's a fact. So now we'll get to moron. I mean, it's just hilarious. It's like he's supposed to be a moron, but in the right way. You're not supposed to be the moron who uses your moronism to prop up the status fucking quo. He's the status quo, ladies and gentlemen, which means there's no point to Howard Stern anymore. except to serve the establishment, which is what he does. Which is why he's allowed on family television on ABC.
By the way, Jimmy, this is a guy that had a Klansman on his show regularly.
Yes.
Not even a Boogaloo boy, a Klansman that they were very friendly with. Like, all is forgiven.
All is forgiven because Howard Stern hated Donald Trump and voted for Hillary Clinton. And now he repeats big pharma propaganda. So let's get into what he said. He said, believe me, this here is turning into a third world country because of effing morons who have living here. Stern told listeners on his Sirius XM radio show on Tuesday during a discussion of a staff member's trip to Panama amid the coronavirus pandemic. It's a sad commentary on my country, Stern, who's 67 years old. That's what he said. Boy, he is every minute of that 67 years, isn't he?
What does he mean this is becoming a third world country?
Dude, this is a third world country a long time ago. I don't know if you looked out your window, but I'm sure he gets helicoptered in to do his show and helicoptered back out. I don't think he doesn't mix. Yeah. He doesn't mix with the unwashed. The only time Howard Stern talks to somebody who is a worker for a living is when they're servicing him.
Yeah, when he's yelling at an intern to make more cold calls to sell merch or whatever the hell whatever said.
Or his driver, or the person who gets his wig, who styles his wig for him. Because that's a wig.
Yelling at his wig stylist.
Because that's a wig. I can't wait for somebody to go up to Howard Stern and rip his wig off.
Who's the person servicing his Jerry curl wig?
Yeah. This is my country. I've got too many morons living here. We could be past a lot of this COVID business added. So it's not true. Look at Gibraltar. Look at Iceland. Look at Singapore. Look at South Korea. This is not true. And I get it. If you thought that way, then that's how you would feel. But it's up to you now to become informed, especially since you have a media. You're in the media. You have a show.
Do you remember what he said after 9/11 about the Muslim world?
No.
His immediate response was, "We need to have our boot on these people's necks." Was his? I remember the exact quote because he had some lawyer that was friends with the show was like, "Don't say that." That's how he reacts to stuff that makes him scared. In fact, in his book, that's why he liked Pataki, because there's all these people walking around scaring him.
Yes.
And he wants them dead. That's the quote. I'm quoting it. That's like how he's always been.
Yes. Yeah, he's never been like a courageous guy or a thought leader or somebody who had a vision. Howard Stern was a guy who said pee pee poo poo on the radio. That's all. That's his fucking genius. He said pee pee poo poo on the radio.
At the time, that was edgy. The establishment was against that. Now the establishment's all for it.
All for that.
Yeah.
If you say vote for Hillary, you could say pee pee poo poo all you want. You could go on the Golden Globes and say fuck Trump. So now that A-list actors are saying the F word on television, Howard Stern's, the interest in him is waned. So you were all about freedom until the morons got a hold of the place. That's what Robin Quiver said. She's so talented. Now I'm not into freedom, Stern replies to laughs. I don't feel good about what's going on in my country. I might have to run just to clean this effing mess up. He's not upset about the authoritarianism or the flattening of the workers. He's not, or the upward transfer of wealth. That's not what he's upset about. He's upset that regular people are practicing bodily autonomy that has nothing to do with him. That's what he's upset about.
Wow. Well, he sounds a lot better than Trump running.
Yeah, right? I wish he would run. I could clean, I mean Howard Stern.
Yeah.
I could clean it up in 2 seconds, the famed radio personality said up. By the way, Donald Trump, one of his best friends, until he ran against Hillary, right? He was on his show all the time.
Well, I think Howard said, like, if he stopped being president, he would give him a hug or something. Like, he tried to say he's still his friend.
I could clean it up in 2 seconds, the famed radio personality said of a potential White House run. Just the way President Biden got us out of Afghanistan, that quick, I'm going to clean things up. Boom, right away. What are you going to do, Howard? He sounds like Trump, doesn't he? That's the irony.
It sounds so much like it, I can't believe it.
He's 100%. The headline should be, Howard Stern apes Trump. Hates on regular people. Blames regular people.
That is such a Trump-like oversimplify it and be like, yeah, once I get in there, it'll be done in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, 2 seconds.
It's not the first time that Stern, a frequent critic of former President Trump's coronavirus response, has bantered that he could launch a White House bid. Earlier this month, Stern said if he were to run against Trump in 2024, he would beat his ass. I so wish he would do that. Howard Stern would get so humiliated. Because he doesn't know it, Howard Stern is running on Hillary Clinton's platform. Howard Stern is Hillary Clinton with a wig. On Tuesday's show, Stern also rallied against actors who quit or lost their jobs in protest of vaccine mandates. So what Howard Stern is doing is the opposite of what a comedian is supposed to do. A comedian is supposed to be anti-establishment and break the rules. Howard Stern is bullying people into following the rules, which is not what comedy is, which is why he's irrelevant. Well, why are you doing this segment? Just to fucking make it real. I don't even know what that means. On Tuesday's show, Stern, he's more relevant than I am. I'll put it that way. He's certainly still more relevant than I am. I'm doing a segment on Howard Stern. He's not doing a segment on me. That's a good side how you can tell who's relevant, who isn't. If he was doing segments on me and I wasn't doing it, you knew I was bigger than him. That's a way you can tell.
Like Rogan?
That's exactly right.
That's why he attacked Rogan. Yeah,
that's right. That's why he attacks Rogan, and Rogan doesn't pay attention. On Tuesday's show, he rallied against actors who protested against their vaccine mandates, including former General Hospital star Ingo Rademacher, who was also reportedly axed from the soap opera for refusing to be vaccinated. Is he crazy? Stern asked. It's insanity. That's what a rule follower thinks. That's what a status quo, untalented fucking... I know I shouldn't say untalented. He certainly has a talent. There's no doubt about that. He has a talent. But it certainly isn't being anti-establishment. I'll tell you that.
I like the later Stern with all the bass in his voice from the they put on the show.
Oh, they load him up with the Glenn Beck bass?
Yeah, they give him that real... Like when my mic isn't working.
Okay. Oh, so let me also say this. I've just been informed that we don't know where Omicron came from. That it may, I don't know about this, but it may or may not be a mutation from Delta. So we don't know where it came from. We don't know. Hey, come see a live Jimmy Dore show. We're in Los Angeles, January 7th and 14th. Then we're in Raleigh, North Carolina, and Philadelphia. Go to jimmydoorecomedy.com for a link for all tickets and become a premium member to get access to all our premium videos.